Yes, I was there. I was on duty, wasn't I? Following orders like I was told. They tell you to watch the Emperor's Gate for 10 hours on a freezing night, you do it. They tell you to stand with a sword and a shield with some very upset locals screaming obscenities, you do it. They tell you to spread out and nail up a local peasant with a big mouth that's got himself into trouble, you do that too. You don't discuss it, you don't say, "Oh, excuse me, Gov, can you just fill me in on the background here?" You just bang in the nails like you were taught. It's a living, it's a job. But it was a weird day, I have to admit. I mean, what do I mean? I mean, one of those days when everything that happens has a feel to it, a colour, an odd smell. Do you ever have that? I get up in the morning, it's my day off, and suddenly I'm told there's a rush on at Execution Hill. They've got 3 to do, and they're short-staffed. So, bang goes my lie-in and a day's fishing. I've always liked fishing, since I was a kid. Anyway, I catch them up just as they reach the top of the hill. I always hate this bit because it gets messy and grisly, and one of them usually vomits or tries a runner. But they say if you're quick and you work together as a team, it's best for everyone. And we did. We got 2 up in 8 minutes, which is a company record, I think. I must check. Anyway, just as I was starting to pin out the 3rd one, I had him by the wrist with my foot on his hand, and literally, just as I raised the mallet, he looked at me, and he said my name. I hesitated for a second. I was quite angry. I remember thinking, who the hell are you saying my name? And I brought down the mallet with such force that I nailed him in one hit. He passed out, so the rest of him was a breeze, but it stayed with me, that. How did he know who I was? Anyway, that was that, but the next thing, well, there were lots of things that day, but the thing I remember most was it was hot, and we were sweating, and the place stank. But after a few hours it went cold. It happens at night in these parts, but this was mid-afternoon, and out of nowhere a mist came in, and suddenly we were reaching for our capes. It went quiet too, so quiet you could hear them breathing, well, fighting for breath, because that's what finishes them in the end. They can't breathe. So it's cold and it's quiet, and even the relatives had stopped their crying and moaning, and he shouts something. God knows what it was, but it went right through me, I tell you. Really powerful. I thought, where in God's name did that come from? Well, after that I wanted to call it a day. The officer of the watch agreed, so we broke the legs of the first 2. We have to do that, just in case. But when it came to the 3rd, he was obviously finished. But I was told to skewer him. I hadn't done it before, and the others knew because they laughed when I got what they call the red shower. But I wasn't laughing. I was cold and wet, and I'd lost a day off and an afternoon's fishing. I was not in the mood for jokes. But I got my day off in the end, you'll be pleased to hear. In fact, that was weird as well, because when I go fishing, I like to get right away from the city, and I found these rocks by the sea at Tiberias. This was, I don't know, week or so later. Anyway, I got there the night before, and I'd slept under the stars, and I was woken at daybreak by the smell of cooking. And there, on the beach, was a bloke with a fire. He saw me and beckoned me over. "Smells good," I said. "Want some?" he said. So we sat and we had breakfast together. He told me he was waiting for some friends who were out fishing, and then he broke open some hot bread and poured some wine. But when he tried to get the fish off the fire, he burned himself. And he laughed and he licked his finger. And then I noticed he'd injured his wrist quite badly. So I said to him, "You want to get that looked at?" But he said it was fine. It was unpleasant at the time, but it was healing well. And then I asked him, "If your friends are out fishing, how come there's fish already on the fire?" You know what he said? "Oh, I just clap my hands, Marcellus, and they come trotting up the beach." And he laughed again loudly. But I didn't. That was the second time in a week a complete stranger had known my name, and I suddenly felt uncomfortable. So I thanked him and made my excuses and left. But as I did, he called out, "The pleasure was mine, Marcellus. I'll catch you later." My name. He'd done it again. "What?" I said. "Oh, it's just an expression," he said. "What's just an expression?" I asked. "I'll catch you later," he replied. "Just an expression from another time." And he smiled and turned and waved to his friends who were coming ashore in their boat. But weird, don't you think? Life can be really weird sometimes.